Hello, it's me. I'm going to teach you math even though I'm not here. Alright, so this is actually in Edmodo. It should be attached on the same link. I'm going to do this right after. These are your notes. It starts with a page that looks like this. I think I'm going to start with the second page. So please flip to your second page and take notes along with this video. So for homework, we did problems like this here, where I gave you an equation, 3x plus 4y equals 18, and we needed to convert it to slope-intercept form. So we want to convert this to y equals mx plus b, which just means you need to isolate the y. Again, this is slope-intercept form. Your y is by itself, and everything else is over on the other side. So that's what I need to do here. I need to get y by itself and everything else on the other side. You work your way towards y, so I'm going to subtract 3x first. For y equals, I'm going to make sure my x term is first because in slope-intercept form, x is first. So I'm going to put negative 3x plus 18. Now I need to isolate the y further. It's being multiplied by 4, so I divide by 4. Watch this. I'm going to do it different than Unit 1. I'm dividing all 3 parts. Everything. This simplifies to y equals negative 3/4 becomes negative 0.75. I'd rather have my slope a fraction. Negative 3/4 x. 18 divided by 4, now I'm going to simplify this as much as I can. This is the first time you're seeing the y-intercept become a decimal, but that happens. Sometimes we're graphing lines and they're not perfect. So I'm going to leave this as 9/2. And this is slope-intercept form. We just converted this to slope-intercept form. We can convert any equation back to slope-intercept form. Our slope here being negative 3/4. And 9/2 is our y-intercept. Now this brings us to, well, what was the form before I changed it to slope-intercept form? Which is called standard form. This is your second form of linear equations. Again, if this is equivalent to this, that means this equation could have been the equation for the straight line. Now we call this standard form. It's in the form of ax plus by equals c. X and y are still our input and output. Notice they are blank. We always leave those blank. A, B, and C don't really represent anything. They are just integers, which means whole numbers. They will only be whole numbers and they're negatives. A is usually positive. You can change an equation from slope-intercept to standard form, and I can go back and forth. It's just important that you know in standard form that these numbers are all whole numbers. There will never be fractions. I don't know if you want to leave yourself a note. Never fractions. Unlike slope-intercept form, which you see here, we usually do have fractions, especially for slope. We want a fraction, rise over run. So here we have slope-intercept form equations. How do I know this? They're all in the form of y equals mx plus b. 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 So for homework last night, you converted standard form to slope-intercept. Now we're taking slope-intercept and making standard form. This is a little bit difficult, but I think you guys can do it, especially because I'm doing it with you. So take these notes. Again, we want no fractions, and we want it to look like ax plus by equals c, which means I want the x and the y on the same side. I want a constant on the other side, and I'm just making sure there's no fractions. So I'm going to start with number 1. The easiest thing for me to do is to make sure x and y are on the same side. So how do I bring this x over to that side? It's minus 2x, so I'm going to plus 2x. These cancel out to 0. Y plus 2x. They're not like terms, so it's just y plus 2x. I'm going to use commutative property to write my x term first. There you go. Now you just need to make sure there's no fractions left. Your a term is positive and you're done. No fractions, a term is positive. Here's my ax plus by equals c. My a is 2, my b is 1, my c is 7. I'm done with that problem. This is another way you can write that equation. And I'm going to talk about on Monday why this type of equation is important. Alright, number 2. Same thing. I want to get that 4x to the other side. So I'm going to subtract 4x, subtract 4x. I get negative 4x plus y equals negative 1. Now, everything's good here. There's no fractions, but the problem is my a term is negative. We usually don't like to start a term as a negative. We usually like it positive. So how do I make a negative a positive? I'm multiplying it. I have to multiply everything to keep the equation equal. What do I multiply it by? Negative 1. I'll put this number in red because this is a number that you would have to think of yourself. I distribute that in to everything. And this becomes a positive 4x. Negative 1 times y is negative y. Negative 1 times negative 1 is positive 1. So now I have converted into perfect standard form where I have no fractions. My x and y are on the same side. And my a term is positive. These two add a little bit of difficulty because they have fractions. So I'm going to start with this one. Again, same start step. Bring the x term to the other side. I'm going to do that by addition. Make sure you write the x term first because it's ax plus by equals c. So I get 2 fifths x plus y equals positive 1. Now the problem here is the fraction. You will never see standard form with a fraction. So how do I get rid of 2 divided by 5? Well, the 2 isn't the problem. The problem is the divide by 5. So what's the opposite of divide by 5? Nope, I don't hear anybody because it's just me talking to a class of nobody, but hopefully tomorrow you can answer that. How do you get rid of divide by 5? Multiply by 5. I'm going to distribute. Now I'm distributing from the back only because I'm running out of room on my smart board. If I get rid of divide by 5, by multiply by 5, hopefully this will work. You distribute that 5 to everything. Now again, fractions times a whole number. 2 times 5 is 10 divided by 5. 2 times 5 divided by 5 is 2x. So that got rid of the fraction. 5 times y is 5y. And then 1 times 5 is 5. So there you have it. ax plus by equals c. All whole numbers, and my a is positive. So that's standard form. And the last one we'll do together today. Alright. So, first things first, subtract the x term over. This is very similar to Unit 1 literal equations where you just bring things from left to right, left to right. You didn't actually combine anything, you just brought things over. Now I have negative 3 halves x plus y equals negative 4. So the problem here is 2 things. Fraction and the fact that the first term is negative. So how do I get rid of this fraction? Well, really the problem is divide by 2. So the opposite of divide by 2, multiply by 2. Well, I want to get rid of the negative as well. So instead of just multiplying by 2, I'm going to multiply by negative 2. The negatives will cancel out, and the 2 will cancel out. But don't forget, I have to change everything. You just can't multiply one thing to an equation. In order for it to stay equal, you multiply all pieces. Negative 3 times negative 2 is positive 6 divided by 2 is 3. X. Negative 2 times y is negative 2y. B is allowed to be negative. I don't know if we brought that up yet. That's okay. And -2 times -4 is 8. So what you just saw there is me convert 4 slope-intercept form equations to standard form equations. For homework last night, you did vice versa. This is very similar to literal equations. You don't really know why we use standard form. I'll talk about that Monday, but it's just important that you know how to convert. All right, I will see you Monday. Good luck. I do want to give you some homework on this. So in the Edmodo link above, you will see your homework on page number 301, I believe. Okay, bye.